Warning. This show features dark subjects which may be triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everyone to Chaos Jar. I'm J Wes Secord, the loud and obnoxious one. Hey. Then we have Bad Ben, our big bag of facts.
Hi there.
And AT Token, our friend. And we want to let you know to subscribe and rate and like and what are the things that we need to do for...
So, please give us a 5-star on, Apple Podcasts and Google, Podcast and all those podcast apps. If you can give us a good rating, really helps out on the business end, really gets us noticed.
Yes, what he said. And you may, before we get to our topic, you may have noticed that I said Chaos Jar. I'm glad you asked. So, Chaos Jar is our new name because, unfortunately, when Ben posted our thing, he didn't take the time to actually look at names, and now we have all this stuff about a Pandora's jar, and it's gone to waste, and I had to throw it in the garbage.
I still don't know what I'm going to do with 500 t-shirts. I'm just...
the merchandise is going down. So we've rebranded, and we are now officially Chaos Jar. And that will be our moniker from now on. Nobody has it except us, so you guys will find it way easier to find us. Though our first 3 or 4 episodes will contain us saying Pandora's Jar. Ignore that. But if you do message a lot and tell us it's a problem, we will go back in and do one of those, those re-records where the people are just talking. It's like, welcome to Chaos Jar! And we'll have that done and everything.
Awkwardly as possible.
Exactly. Now, with all that being said and gotten out of the way, I will take us to Bad Ben for the topic of the today.
Well, the topic of today is going to be the Miyazawa family.
Oh, I love Studio Ghibli.
Uh-huh. Wow. You're going to be very disappointed.
Swing and a miss.
Was it talking about his son who who made the ones that weren't as good?
Let's go with that.
Yeah, okay, that makes
sense.
We have been officially canceled.
That seems to happen every week now.
Yeah. we just keep going to a new station every time. Somehow they keep canceling us and bringing us back.
And now we had to go Chaos Jar.
Yeah. So okay. Please tell us more.
So I'm just gonna set it up a little bit easier. First of all, please find my ignorance charming. I am not Japanese. I don't speak Japanese outside of some curse words. And my time in Japan was very brief.
You've actually been to Japan. I'm actually kind of jealous of that in itself.
I mostly stayed on buses and trains and meetings with businessmen at restaurants. It was weird.
Culture shock weird or just weird?
Japan is
very weird. I didn't sleep the entire time I was there.
Bright lights.
I would sleep on the train sometimes.
Very New York of you.
Yeah.
Japan is such a beautiful place. Meeting rooms, subways, perfection.
Wait, aren't the subways famously packed?
Yes.
Yeah.
So people are cushions.
And also,
they have extreme rules too.
I learned that they're very, very much things that we say that are Americanized are very much not a thing there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I tried to order pancakes and that did not go well for me. Apparently what you have to order is hotcakes.
Ah.
Quite interesting.
Wait, were you a big thing there?
No.
Well, technically.
Well, yeah.
I just remember being a little bit different than the local flavor.
Yeah, I guess so, but...
Nobody had any?
No, not really.
I think you might not have noticed if the culture's that different.
That and not really... I'm not going to say it.
I thought I was the racist one.
Yeah. I don't hate anyone. I'm just saying.
This is how it starts.
Yeah.
I am also an avid fan of Japan. Call me the weeb if you wish, but I love it.
All right, there, weeb.
No, it's Wes. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a W in there.
So, while researching this, there was a lot of documents, a lot of police reports, poorly translated. I kind of had to do a lot of sleuthing around for this. This episode took quite a while to put together. I've been working on it for a while, kind of like Rock Apes.
He's even wearing a detective hat and a monocle. That's how much sleuthing he did.
The monocle and then the magnifying glass.
Yeah, they seem kind of contradictory to each other, but you know what? I'm not going to judge.
The telescope eye when he needs it.
Just call me Inspector Gadget.
Yeah. So anyway, what exactly has happened?
If anything that comes out of here, like for Japanese culture, language pronunciations, if it's wrong, go ahead and bombard me on Twitter.
This is going to be very awkward.
I will completely ignore you and not even care.
Does that mean our sources are reliable?
They are reliable. They're
sources?
pretty reliable. It's just the translations are very poor. So this case was very hard to get a lot of evidence, like a lot of the documentation on. However, I have gotten the most cemented portion of this, and I'm sure that there will be small discrepancies here or there.
You lose details in translation.
But it just gets lost. Like there's probably some pieces of this that are kind of missing from the puzzle. However, it's just because I couldn't possibly fact check absolutely everything or get all the information properly through the translations.
So, in other words, there might be some skewed facts, but that isn't our fault. It's the fault of the information
this is going to be basically it's not going to be the skeleton version of it, but for instance, there are some rumors in here that I will outright state these are unconfirmed or this is confirmed, things like that.
There'll be some comments.
Just to make it a little easier for people to kind of know what we're looking for.
Now, is this a... this sounds like it's not a very popular one that's come up before, because it seems kind of new to me.
The Miyazawa family?
Yeah, like, obviously, my joke aside, earlier, it doesn't sound like a typical thing I've heard before.
So, there's been some people who talk about it, but it is very rare as a subject, and actually a lot of the subject material that I got from any other sources that were, like, on video, like I did small video research as well, just to see what other people were saying about it and see if they had sources in their documentation.
What is the subject? Is this like a murdering family? Is it family
I don't want to get into that right now.
Okay,
get back in your cage.
But anyways, just little things like that to see if they had other sources that I might not, and so on. But they're not very either they're not very long videos or they're not very
details.
Prominent.
Oh, okay.
So it is a known case, but it's also not a unbelievably saturated case. And I actually, just to address that right now, I kind of stay away from the John Wayne Gacy's and things like that on purpose. You guys all know what happened. You guys all know what was going on. And maybe eventually I'll touch on them, but I'd rather stick to things that we don't always have the most amount of saturation on, that they're not overly exposed and overly hyped, because in all honesty, how many times can you hear about Jeffrey Dahmer?
John Wayne Gacy, that's the guy from Step Brothers, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm sure there was some Step Brothers in there.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. In the past, I've actually accidentally made that mistake in real life. Just because 3 names, 1 letter in the middle, right?
Yeah. All right. So anyways, just to get started, well, let's introduce some characters here. All right.
Okay.
So, Mikio Miyazawa and his wife, Yasuko Miyazawa, in 1990, they bought a house in the Setagaya district of Tokyo, Japan.
Oh,
just so we're absolutely clear.
As opposed to Tokyo, New York. Yeah.
Ohio.
Is there Tokyo, New York? Did I just fuck up with that joke.
I mean, the States has every version of every town.
Yeah, okay.
so-
Yeah, there's
enough.
even in
There's gotta
Peru,
be one.
Indiana. I'm just saying.
There's a Canada Town, USA in Middle Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Anyways, the house that they bought in 1990, it was situated right by Soshigaya Park, which was slowly evolving into a bigger park, and they were opening new portions of it. And part of the portion that they did open was the skate park, which became super popular, especially with a very local, like with local skaters and also a local kind of biker gang. I don't have that name on record. I had heard it a few times, and I'm not trying to pronounce that.
You should be giving me these to pronounce, because I think I might be able to do it a little better.
All right.
It got used to that stuff.
They had two kids. Nina, who was their oldest and the daughter, and then Ray, who was the youngest, and he actually suffered from a speech impediment that he was really working on, and they had actually started looking into seeking professional help for. So let's fast forward. Like when they first bought the house, it was actually a really good neighborhood. There was lots of people around them. And then as they started to construct more into the park and slowly develop it out, they started having their neighbors slowly move out because the biker gang was there, things like that, and because they're trying to evolve this park a little bit more. So they were going to try and, like, people were moving out. And actually, in December of 2000, the Miyazawa family were one of the last ones to be leaving their house, which was shared with Yasuko's I'm guessing sister. Like, some of the reports are a little off, but they kind of lived in like a subdivision house. It was an odd layout for the house.
Mm-hmm.
We will take a look at the picture of the house. I'll end up showing you guys that.
Oh.
But yeah, it is an odd.
Get to see a house.
Yeah, I decided to add some graphics.
God, yeah, up top, house.
I don't know what those look like.
Fucking high five me. Yeah, house.
But anyways, so they were slowly moving people out of the area, and they had actually purchased a house. Like, they actually found a new place to live. Part of this was that they were the last families to leave, and they had been having a lot of trouble and disputes with the skate park. A lot of disturbances. It was keeping kids up. There's a lot of damage happening around them, and so they were actually looking forward to getting away from this. They only had to tough it out for a little bit longer until they could find their new place to live. Mm-hmm. So December 2000. Oh, so Mikio actually worked for, this is a very interesting fact, Mikio actually worked for a company called Interbrand, which is a London-based marketing company. They actually worked with like Microsoft and Nissan and a few other larger scale corporations. Oh. In 1999, they actually branded the term Wi-Fi.
Oh.
So
that's kind of cool, actually.
It's unknown what Mikio does for this company, but that's the company he worked for.
Still alive? We'll get there.
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
I was about to ask the same question. That wording was very specific.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: he is dead. So, anyways, the Miyazawa home was actually only separated from the skate park by a chain link fence. So that's how close they were, and that's how these disturbances can actually cause a lot of problems, because you're right close. And
that makes sense. Isn't, like, most of Japan is so compact, isn't it?
Like densely populated.
Yeah.
And like, even the description of this house, like, it's odd how it kind of like is laid out, I guess. I look at it like a subdivision, but some people described it almost like a duplex. And their side of the house has 3 floors. There's a like third floor loft, and then there's a second floor, and then there's the main floor.
Like vertical subdivisions?
I'm guessing so.
My
see those.
My aunt actually lived in a place like that way back when. It was actually it was just really cool to have that 3-floor setup where you're just like...
It feels bigger than it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem is noise on both sides.
Yeah, and if you think about it, though, Yasuko's, I'm guessing, sister or her brother or something, like they were family members of hers lived on the other side, like right on the other side. So they shared this residence. So anyways, December 27th, Yasuko actually mentioned to her father-in-law, so Mikio's father, that she had noticed a car that would be parked close to the Miyazawa family home, despite the fact that there was ample parking for the skate park and all that kind of stuff, really close. Like, so somebody was deliberately sitting there, but you can't really prove that. You know, it's a popular park. Maybe the parking was filled, but it didn't seem likely. There's also, over the following days from the 27th, reports of a man skulking around the Miyazawa family home. Some people
specifically their home?
Yeah, some people described a man in his 40s. So not exactly the crowd that would sit there, but as I said, there was a biker gang there, so who knows?
That's I've actually had the same problem happen to me. I was walking around a person's house, and they reports of me walking around it. It was great. They said I was 42, but it was only like 20 at the time.
It just happened to be in Japan.
Yeah, it happened in Japan. At what was that year again?
We're in December of 2000.
2000. What? No. Yeah. I've never been to Japan.
Anyways, there was also some unconfirmed rumors of animals disappearing or being found, like slaughtered and killed, like rodents that were basically like torn apart or
mutilated.
Yeah. In fact, one of the neighbors apparently was familiar with a stray cat, and when they saw the stray cat one day, it had no tail all of a sudden. So, but these are, again, unconfirmed rumors. Again, these were some of the sources I couldn't back up because of the language barrier. So anyways, the 30th of December arrives, and Yasuko's mother is over visiting. Her name is Asahi Gino.
Let me help with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the other side now. Or closer. Finger closer. Asai.
Okay. So Asai Gino, she was watching a program with her granddaughter, Nina, and she went home. So as the night progresses on, around 11 to 11:30, the Yasuko's family on the other side, the neighbors, they heard a really loud bang come from the Miyazawa side of the house. They later confirmed the timing based on television programs that were running at that time.
Was there a recording?
No, it's just because
people incidental.
Well, when you watch shows at a certain time, so when they're asked about it, well, what were you watching? And then, okay, we're watching this show. Okay, well, that's on at this time at this channel, right?
Gotcha.
So
in hindsight, I think I got it wrong. I think it is Asahi.
Okay. Whatever you say.
I feel dumb now.
So yeah, 7:30. Sorry, 11:30. 7:30. 11:30. This happens. So the next morning, December 31st, Asahi or Asahi. She tried calling. She tried calling her daughter to see, because they had plans for the next day. She tried calling her daughter to get a hold of her, but instead of the phone like ringing and nobody picking up, the phone call didn't even go through. So this became very, very weird for her. So she obviously went over to see if she could figure out what's happening, and she doesn't. She initially does state that when she opened the door, it was locked, so she had to unlock the door. As time went on, though, she did say that she doesn't remember whether or not it was unlocked or locked. Just making that clear so that if somebody jumps in there and goes, well, later she did later retract these statements, stating that she didn't remember well enough whether or not it was locked.
Yeah, shut down the argument before it happens.
Yeah.
High five.
No.
Do it.
So, as she enters the house, she finds right at the bottom of the stairs, really close to that door, Mikio Miyazawa, who was 44, is laying on the floor in a pool of his blood, and he's been stabbed to death.
Ooh, not a bang.
She then goes into the house to search the rest of the house. She uncovers her daughter, Yasuko, who is 41, and her granddaughter, Nina, 8. And they were both stabbed to death as well. And they were on the second floor. Also on the second floor, Rei Miyazawa, who was 6, was found strangled in his bed.
What? Very personal deaths.
Yeah. The police later discovered that the phone lines had been cut. And, yeah. So, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police obviously get into this case, and they start to try and recreate the scene. This is kind of where they're at for the recreation. So, let's just break this down. And as I said, I did mention 2 children dead in this. So, it can get a little rough from here.
That's why we did the pre-recorded disclaimer.
Yes.
Just guys, remember that disclaimer. I know it's a little more general, but we this covers it.
Yeah. So, according to police, the killer scaled the fence or a tree to gain access to the bathroom at the rear of the house on the second floor. It's adjacent to the Soshigaya Park. It's believed that the killer then used his bare hands to strangle Rei, who was sleeping in his bed. Right away, I just want to, that just seems rough.
Warning, folks. This
power may go out.
This episode may disappear.
Oh, there's your cue.
This show just got darker.
Yeah. So, anyways, should we close that?
No, it's fine.
The local god
right.
against us. What does it mean?
So, they believe that Mikio was alerted to the disturbance and rushed to his son's room, and this brought him into direct confrontation with the assailant. And that actually resulted in a struggle where I'm just going to take the liberty here and say Mikio put up a pretty good fight, and he even injured the attacker.
He was armed.
But was felled by a stab wound to the head with a sashimi knife.
Ooh!
So, side note, the sashimi knife is a sashimi bako knife. They're a type of long knife used to prepare sashimi. During this altercation, the knife blade broke in Mikio's head and basically rendered the knife almost useless from there.
Out of curiosity, who had the knife initially? Was it brought in?
The killer brought the knife with him.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
So probably handle.
The killer then moved on to Yasuko and Nina. He was able to wound them with the broken knife, but not kill them. This is all theoretical as well, just based on a recreation. So the killer then left the Miyazawa to retrieve a better weapon to murder them, and this is only thought because Yasuko and Nina were both found close to the first aid kit, and there was evidence to show that Yasuko was trying to tend to her daughter's wounds. Probably because when he left, they probably thought he was leaving for good. But instead, what had happened was the killer had actually gone down into the kitchen and retrieved a santoku knife, which is a more general purpose knife, kind of like how we use them and so on, from the kitchen. She was, like I said, using the first aid kit. There's a lot of evidence of that, and Nina's blood was discovered on a few of the bandages from the kit. So the killer did return and finish them off. So, once he had finished this, what would you do? Probably run from the house, right?
He seems pretty calm and motivated for doing whatever the hell he's doing.
I feel, yeah, that was what I was going to say, because he casually went downstairs to get a new knife.
So, the killer remained in the home for several hours.
Jesus.
There was fecal matter found in the toilet that was not flushed. There was bandages, feminine sanitary napkins, and towels that were discovered with an unknown person's blood on them.
Because he was injured.
Yeah, so he's probably trying to bandage himself
right.
up. The killer. There was also evidence that the killer had napped on a second-floor couch,
Okay, that's weird.
and that he used the family computer.
Yeah.
So, analysis showed that he did log on to that the computer was logged onto the internet at about 1:18 a.m. He browsed the internet for 5 minutes and 18 seconds. The computer was also shown to have been logged into the internet again around 10 a.m., around the time that Yasko's mother had shown up to check on the family. There are some reports that this might have just been triggered by her, but I don't understand how a computer could be triggered to go online just from somebody entering the house. And also, the computer was left unplugged after this. So I have a feeling that this is when he made his break for it. However, there's other reports.
But what was he doing? Like,
So
I'm going to take a nap and then check Facebook?
he did try to purchase tickets for a local theater thing, because Mikio was very involved with the local theater, and people don't quite understand whether or not this was like a joke on his part, like kind of like an insult to the family of like, you know, I'll buy tickets to your show, ha ha ha, or if this was actually that the family was not murdered when they initially were thought to be. However, how the time of death was found was with like using like science on their stomachs to kind of see around what time they would have died. So
Alternate theory, just psychosis.
this
Like
is true.
somebody who really likes this guy is like, nah, I'm gonna kill him and his entire family, but I'm also gonna get tickets and see him later.
So
Either that or he thought they'd have a better discount because they were in the show.
the killer also was eating, like, was shown to have drank some tea, ate some barley, ate ice cream.
Made himself home.
Yeah, he just basically enjoyed himself.
He took his time to make tea.
The killer also
psychosis.
went around the house and collected a lot of trash and old documents and things like that, and was basically browsing through these things to see like PIN codes and credit cards, so that to see if he could get this. But eventually he did toss some of these things into the bathtub. There's a theory about the fact that perhaps he was trying to burn this evidence later but forgot about it when he left. Like,
What?
Could this be like attempting to pick up an identity?
so items that were kind of found in the bathtub were like like a bunch of ice cream wrappers / cups, documents and receipts for Mikio's work, documents related to Yasko's school, because she was, I guess, a school teacher or something, feminine sanitary items. So it was presumed that this is the killer ranishing through their stuff. And
This is like teenager behavior.
This is... Oh my god!
Let's rummage through everything, see what they're all about.
What? It's almost like he didn't even notice he killed people. Like
That's why I thought psychosis.
yeah, like it's so weird. He just sort of casually walked around. I'm gonna make some tea. You know
Have
what?
this shit.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna take a nap on the couch and then go buy some tickets to the local theater. Like, that's absurd.
in this whole time, he never did take off his shoes. There were shoe prints all over the house, which is actually a very big no-no in Japan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like another thing where like he was trying to insult the
Disrespect.
family. Like, the killer didn't take many valuables that were within the home. Actually, he took roughly about 150,000 yen, so about 1,256 US dollars worth at a time.
Yeah.
The family members weren't sure where the money was, but there was a lot of cash left in the house, a lot more valuables he could have taken. So if this was a robbery gone wrong, he didn't really get away with much. He also, there's reports of he stole a sweatshirt or a jacket. My guess is because the jacket is more prominent, that the jacket is what was taken, like that was some sort of black jacket that belonged to Mikio.
It's weirdly personal and dissociative.
Yeah.
Honestly, there are better ways to get a jacket.
Well, it seems like it's a message, but I can't even pin what the message is.
He also left a ton of his stuff behind. This was basically a treasure trove of evidence. When the Tokyo Metropolitan Police arrived on the scene and they began the gruesome investigation, they quickly found the broken sashimi knife and the santoku knife that was used to kill
them all
everybody.
behind.
Which this is a jackpot in a murder case. Like, that's right away. You have the murder weapons immediately. And they also found the clothes of the killer that were left behind. These included an AirTech jacket, size large.
Is that a local brand, or
I'm guessing that's some sort of...
Okay.
It's not a down jacket. It's a thin insulated interior. And it has sweat from someone with blood type A on the sleeve. So the killer probably got hurt. Blood on the thing.
Killer's obviously not in the system.
A crusher hat.
I don't know what that is.
But
So it's a type of brand of hat sold all over Japan at that time.
yeah, but what does it look like? Damn it!
I
Okay.
don't have that.
You know what? I'm looking it up now.
Good luck. You're going to get like 80.
Edwin gloves, size 26 centimeters.
What?
Yeah, shirt, no brand. There's only 130 of these types of shirts sold. And the shirt was sold only at a shop called Marufuru, which also sold the same type of hat and gloves that the killer left at the scene. There was 2 black handkerchiefs, a scarf, no tags, green background with black, red, black, orange, and dark green plaid knife.
Holy crap, I'm starting to make some sense out of this now.
Yeah, the knife, and a hip bag from a company in Osaka. Now, this hip bag actually is a very, very, very important thing for this case because there was sand inside of the hip bag. Now,
You traced it?
I didn't know this, but sand is actually like really, really
Traceable.
really traceable.
It's
You can find
locally
pretty
unique.
well exactly where someone is. And some of the sand that was found inside of this comes from Edwards Air Force Base in the United States.
Shit.
Yeah, so it was a cooler type of fanny pack bag. It's like a hip bag.
Okay, now this is making a lot of sense. A lot of creepiness.
Inside there was the sand from California and Edwards Air Force Base and some grip tape for a skateboard.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
There's also a Schlesinger shoe. Now, this shoe, it was not a Japanese shoe size.
Cool.
It's actually a Korean shoe size. Korean size 28.
Well, the Americans and the Koreans have a pretty solid military relationship.
Now, these shoes weren't left on the scene. This is just shoe prints that were found. That's how they traced this down. There was also traces of a cologne because they found out what cologne the killer was using based on the handkerchief. Drakkar Noir is what he was wearing. It's not a huge thing of evidence, but it is something worth noting.
It's unique and an identifier.
A weird thing about that is that the handkerchief that the killer left behind
The black one.
was ironed.
There?
No, it was ironed previously. Also, a lot of these clothes were washed in hard water, whereas Japan uses a soft water system. So it's believed that they weren't washed in Japan originally.
Yeah,
so
clearly,
it's kind of weird how obviously this guy probably was in Korea at some point since he has a Korean size shoe, and these clothes and such, or he could have just bought these secondhand from somewhere and not washed them.
or stolen.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with that sand being from California and the Air Force Base. It's very possible this hip bag was bought secondhand or stolen or something or traded off to the... And
A lot of people don't realize U.S. military members often travel by civil airplane. If you just jack one of their suitcases, you got it.
So anyways, the clothes and the sashimi knife were determined to be purchased at the Kanagawa prefecture. Like I said, there's only 130 units of that one shirt made, and they managed to track down about 12 people of the 130 that were sold. But none of those came up as the thing. there was an analysis of the feces found in the toilet.
Yep,
From this, it was discovered that the killer had eaten string beans and a sesame seed kind of spinach dip the previous day, which is actually a very bland type of meal. It's actually something that is, a lot of people were saying, is a common dish that mothers make for like young children. So this actually spawned speculation that the killer might have lived at home with his like parents, but
well, there was that biker gang, which is usually
the local skate park.
Yeah,
and it's also was determined that a local shop does serve this dish, so it could just be that he bought it. Like
this is a Crusher hat.
Oh well, whatever.
A large rain hat.
Yeah, it's basically a really large rain hat. Yeah, I figured out that was the thing because it's very common to see characters that had in anime. So I assume that's the popular one that they
were using.
Yeah.
And it fits an age crowd, too.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of these clothes are skater-like attire, so it kind of fits with the fact that there's a skater at the back and they're having disturbances with them.
Yeah.
But we'll get a little further into this as well. So, right off the bat, as we've already stated before, there was a ton of fingerprints and a ton of DNA evidence, like blood on towels, just a ton of it. Due to the injury sustained with Mikio, killer's blood was found throughout the house. Like, this is just insane amount of evidence. Like, this is like just a treasure trove.
Sounds like he didn't even bother to address his own wounds. It sounds like he forgot about those too.
Well, he did try to address them. Like,
what?
he did try to like stop the bleeding.
There were some towels found with type A blood.
Oh, right, the towels. That's right.
For a kid, that's how you'd think to stop blood, right?
Yeah.
So, after running the evidence, like the fingerprints and the DNA, no matches were found, and actually they haven't popped up again. So therefore, the killer had no criminal record at the time and has never offended again in Japan. And
do they have a separate sealed like juvenile system like we do?
I have no idea, but I'm not sure how that works with them. But again, it doesn't exactly like it. If it's not in the system, then that means they've never committed a crime in Japan before or since.
Are you implying that they've done one in another country?
I mean, if that's your opener and you didn't get caught.
There's been no evidence of that either.
Okay.
The blood was shown to be a type A, which ruled out anyone in the Miyazawa family. It was determined that the killer is male, obviously from the DNA evidence, possibly a mixed race. The maternal DNA showed like a South European descendant, descent from around the Mediterranean or Adriatic Sea is more likely. But this is actually it is a distant relative, so it is possible that the mother is still Asian of some sort, just not, just would probably have some ancestry from
some international ancestry.
Yeah. Obviously not full European. That's what they were saying. The paternal DNA is East Asian. The analysis also showed on the Y chromosome, it revealed haplogroup OM122, a haplogroup found in East Asian peoples. The breakdown of the distribution is basically like 1 in 14 Japanese people will have this, 1 in 10 Chinese, or 1 in 4 or 5 Koreans will have this exact thing. So again, there's a link to Korea here.
Mm-hmm.
The breakdown of that distribution basically makes the suspect seem that he might not be Japanese and may not still be in Japan, and therefore they use this evidence to get the International Criminal Police Organization involved as well. So again, this DNA evidence and fingerprint evidence it's being shipped out internationally, and they're still not hitting anything at this point. Killer was thought to be about 170 centimeters tall, thin build. They're looking for somebody born between 1965 and 1985, so at the time would have been 15 to 35 years old. So again, a 40-year-old man. Maybe it's just a guy who lives really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And just based on the physicality needed to enter the house and commit the crimes, it would need to be somebody a little younger or very physically fit, because it would have taken a lot of upper strength to get up that fence or up a tree just to pop in. and get through that window and so on. It was a lot.
I'm wondering if the reason he left like his hat and jacket and whatnot behind is because those were just disguises to fit in the area.
It's now no longer necessary. This does feel like a traveler's crime.
Yeah, exactly, because it sounds like he just took off out of the country and that was it.
And the wounds that were on the victims also indicate that the killer is right-handed, which he could be ambidextrous, who knows? But that's what the thought is.
Typical out.
Yeah.
Aren't there more right-handed people than left?
Yes.
In general?
60%.
Yeah.
So, small amount of suspects because they don't really have an actual suspect at this point. There was a man who was treated at a medical clinic roughly 75 miles away, so about an hour out, at a station. I don't have the name of the station anymore, but it was a medical station that was there. He had a hand injury that was said to be so deep that the bone was visible.
Yum.
The man also refused to give a name.
Oh.
Can you get treated if you don't give a name?
In Japan, yes, you can.
Okay.
Isn't it like, don't they have just purchase care system?
Yeah. That's not a gunshot wound, so I mean, you could just slice yourself at work.
Yeah, exactly.
That goes based off of the approximation that if the killer had stayed in the house for that long, though. There was a cab driver who stated that, and this opens up a whole new branch of theories, that he had picked up close to the area a trio of men, and one of the men was injured because he left a blood stain on the back of this guy's cab, and they wanted to be taken to the local station.
Station?
Like train station. So he remembers this pretty vividly, that they were like kind of like quiet the whole way through and so on, and just because of the blood. And I kind of would understand that, because if somebody bled in my cab when I was a cab driver, I would have...
You make a note of that.
Yeah, I would have remembered that.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's that theory as well, that maybe this wasn't just one guy. Maybe this was several. However, based on the recreation evidence, it kind of looks like there was only one person.
Could be a driver, watchers.
Yeah, something like that.
Several other things. Or just friends around the corner.
But yeah. So, to this day, there's no suspect in this.
I mean, it makes sense. There's such a disparate amount of information.
Well, that's just it, though, is there's so much evidence on this. And the investigation is one of the largest in Japanese history. Like, over 246,044 investigators have worked the case, collecting over 12,545 pieces of evidence.
Money was thrown
Since 2015, 40 officers are assigned to the case full time.
How do they have that manpower?
And yeah, and over the years, Tokyo police actually makes a pilgrimage to the house because it's still standing.
This is important.
Yeah,
culturally.
They actually go there and they do like a memorial service every single year.
Damn.
Actually, there was a whole thing about that house because they wanted to knock it down because, of course, they're developing the park. And the family pushed for it to not be knocked down and become a historical site. So it did manage to stay standing.
Is it a historical site now?
I don't think it's a historical site entirely. I think it's just something that they are protecting because of the fact that it's still an open case and all this other kind of stuff. And if the police are pilgrimaging there every year, I think that's a big thing as well, is that the police will probably keep it going, because some of the investigating officers on it have stated that it's a case that really haunts them because they can't seem to figure out, like, this. It's a little terrifying to think that somebody could break into your home and kill your entire family and then leave behind all this evidence, like take a shit in your toilet and like leave bloody towels and napkins and like sleep on your couch and all these fingerprints and then just get away.
The impression I'm getting, like, just overall, is like it's a traveling gang hit. Like, they imported somebody to hit this guy and they're new, so they don't know what the hell they're doing, and then they send two people to pick him up and send him out.
Unless
and it's a kid.
Unless the kid isn't even a part of the gang, they just had the kid do it out of some sort of threat, and then maybe killed him off when he
$500 or whatever the equivalent is.
Yeah, and then kill him off when he's out of sight, and then
that killer could be gone.
The killer would be dead at this point, and the people who hired him.
But again, what was the motive? Was it the fact that, you know, Mikio and the family kept saying, like, we don't want you doing it? But then again, you only have to put it, like, I even said it, the Miyazawa family were saying that they were basically moving. It looked like they were just going to get away, like, we're all done, we're moving away. So eventually they would have just been left to their own devices anyways. They wouldn't have to worry about this old guy coming over and being like, hey, stop doing this, like, I have kids, like.
Could it be tied to the Minister's work? You said he was tied to the Wi-Fi consortium.
That's what I was thinking.
That's the whole thing as well, is that he was a businessman. But then again, why not take any money?
Because it's not about money, it's about a message.
Yeah, but, like, and again, we don't know what he did at Interbrand either. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of missing, untranslated information here that would be kind of useful for characterization.
Yeah. So, like, but that's just it. And then that guy being treated not too far away for a very deep hand wound. And it was the same, like, according to reports, and this again is not confirmed, the wound was on the same hand as the one that would be on that jacket, the blood and all that kind of stuff. So maybe he got really injured.
Or a butcher had a bad day.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite far away, and there's a lot of circumstances where you can get cut.
Yep.
So, like, it's not really indicative of anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sketchy stuff here. And you mentioned this case is so important they're still paying attention. Is there not, like, a book or anything on the subject?
There are books that have been released about it. Again, this is mostly Japanese, though. And
right. Not translated.
Like I said, I took a look at, like, some Reddit's a great thing.
Of course.
Because they actually, some people were releasing the official police reports that are available to the public, untranslated, and then translating it for people. And so I did take a look at this, and I did run it through Google Translate to see if I could break it down. But of course, Google Translate's not a very good
especially
translating
Japanese.
Yeah.
It's like entirely direct, but then when you take that direct stuff and re-put it in, it gets retranslated into Japanese, and then retranslate that in English. It's all going to come out completely different anyway.
Isn't Japanese a fairly context-sensitive language as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, gibberish.
Yeah, so that's just it. And so, like, I really depended on some of the internet sleuths that were posting these things to kind of help out with the translation and have to take them at their word that this is what it says.
Did we post some of that? Maybe if someone speaks Japanese, they can, like...
Unfortunately, Reddit things like that are actually copywritten.
Oh, really?
People don't realize that, but Reddit stories have like a copyright, have a weird copyright gray area. So if you post it, Reddit kind of owns it based on the person that does it. That's how there was this whole thing, because I listen... A little personal thing about me, I do listen to some YouTubers that do narrations from, like, Let's Not Meet and so on, and they were getting huge copyright strikes against them for stories. So they actually had to go seek out the people who wrote these stories and ask for permission to use them in order to use them. And even that is like a gray area where you could get a copyright strike if somebody reports it, kind of thing.
This is insane.
Yeah.
Nobody owns their own speech.
Yeah.
Well, be careful what you post, folks.
Well, I'm glad I never used Reddit.
Yeah.
Nah. I'm not social.
But yeah. So that's the Miyazawa family. Poor lives.
What the hell? There's like a million questions and no answers.
Yeah. See what I mean by this?
Studio Ghibli films.
See, this is what I mean by, like...
I want to see that film.
But this is what I mean by, like, this was a very frustrating case, and then, like... such a waste of life, like,
well, and a lot of people's lives. There's so many people still working on this,
and like, well, even the timing of this crime, it happens in like on New Year's, and in Japan, New Year's is actually a huge thing. Like, just like here, New Year's is a large thing as well, but in Japan, they have a lot of traditions, because here we kind of focus on the fact that it's a new year, and you're like looking for somebody to like be with for the night and, like, you know, get that kiss at midnight or whatever else, and, you know, you celebrate with your buddies.
They have a very different lifestyle.
Me too. I'm also very sad.
But in Japan, they call it Omisaka, and it kind of is like there are a bunch of traditions to prepare for the new year, especially at this time, because this is December 31st, 2000. And again, to the Japanese, that would be the beginning of a new century. Like the year 2000 is not the beginning of the new millennium or the new century. It's 2001 that is.
Is there a lot of travel for that time?
Pardon?
Would there be a lot of travelers around that time?
I'm not sure.
See. I wish I knew more about the culture.
And they view even just regular New Year, and again, if this is wrong in Japanese culture, please be free to correct me, but they view it as kind of like a clean slate.
Start something.
New Year, everything that happened the previous year doesn't matter anymore.
I don't think it's that clean, but you like make an attempt.
Yeah.
Well,
we do the same to a degree.
I was just about to say
New
that.
Year's resolutions.
New Year, new me.
New Year, new what?
New me.
Yes. I thought you were saying something Japanese.
And our first race card.
Well, speaking of races,
Now on to token.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I'm pretty sure a lot of different Asian cultures do have big New Year's celebrations. And
That's
stuff
just
like
it.
that.
Is did the killer strike on this day specifically because of that? Because it is that thing, and so you know what? We'll take you out before you get your clean slate, kind of thing. Like,
Or it's just a busy time of year to get it done.
Or he knew he would just have time, which is why he lounged. Is because everybody else was busy with everything else. All the neighbors had moved away. Fucking
yeah.
they could easily
Question.
just.
You mentioned a bang that was reported. Did they ever say what that bang was? Like a firearm, someone falling?
There's two theories on that. And it is all based on how this whole thing breaks down. The original thought is that
Look deep
during
into
the
my
fight
eyes.
with Mikio, the bang was Mikio being stabbed in the head and then thrown down the stairs.
Yeah, because you mentioned
He was found on the first floor, down by at the bottom of some stairs.
Brutal as hell.
The second theory is that Yasuko and Nina, trying to get away from their killer, tried to get up to the third floor loft. And that was the killer pulling the third floor loft ladder
Down.
And that's what the bang was.
I've not used one. Are those that loud?
They can be. So it all depends. I think the more likely thing is his body hitting the ground. Like,
that's something like weird enough of a sound you'd make a note of. If you hear someone's lost and like, oh, somebody's just going upstairs, you wouldn't think about it.
There's also reports from like witnesses and the family members stating that, like, from people that were walking around the house and through the park of that, like not like around the house and around the neighborhood and from the park, that around this time there was what they said a heated conversation happening in the house. Not so much screaming and fighting, but more like two very stern people talking to each other and getting into a heated,
aggressive conversation. Yeah, I've been that.
And so people thought maybe it was just, the couple fighting.
I honestly think we should take this elegantly.
Or the other two people in the vehicle came in to have a talk with one
That's
of them,
true, too.
left and sent that other person.
It could be out. There could have been 4 killers. There could be 4 people involved in this. Those 3 people left.
Right.
They took their buddy away.
Hire a local kid, kill him.
Well, not even just that. Think of it this way: they break in, and two of them come in, or something like that, and then the fight happens, and the one guy gets injured. Okay, they try to bandage him up. Well, that didn't work. So then they take him away. The other 2 take him away, and then leave one guy behind in the house to do whatever, and then that's where that guy starts doing that. However, that would prove difficult with all the DNA evidence they have, because
it's a single source.
They weren't showing a lot of different sources. So it's a very unanswered...
It does seem like one entity did the violence, and there may have been other entities involved.
Yeah. So... And they only found 1 shoe print in the whole thing, right? So, again... And so, like, the even weirder thing, though, is, like, Ray's sleeping in his bed when he gets killed. Which is disturbing enough, because I can't imagine being 6 years old and waking up to being strangled in my bed. And then Mikio was still in his work clothes. Apparently, there was evidence that at around 10-something, Mikio had checked his email for work and actually saw work email, like viewed a work email, and that's actually the last verified time that anybody can remember, like that anybody can verify that a family member was alive inside that house. So about an hour before this happens, he was checking his work email and so on, but he was still in his work clothes when he was found at those bottom of those stairs. Everybody else was kind of prepped for bed. So
I bet he came in, checked his email, and then heard a noise, went upstairs. That's when he confronted the guy.
Very possible. Like,
we just solved it now. We are detectives.
All right, so who did it?
Yeah,
Detectives who can describe a situation.
yeah. It's that guy.
Well, that does sound pretty likely, you know. He didn't hang around with Patricia.
Was a pretty shitty guy. I mean, shady. Well, same thing.
Grace card? I don't know. Maybe.
Shut up.
So, anyways, that's that.
Well, that was a really interesting story. I'm actually
kind of fucked that though. Like, there's no conclusion anywhere in that.
Make your own conclusions.
It's not how intelligent people work. You just gotta leave it.
It's okay, bud.
You'll learn.
Well, it has been 20 years. I'm sure they're just waiting to break the case.
Yeah, that seems likely. And that pillow will see some use one day. Don't worry. Enjoy your awful 30-second wake up.
Wow, dude. That is just insensitive. Did you not hear the story we just listened to? God. Wow.
It's not hands, it's a pillow. It's a gentler way. Some sensitivity.
I choose to kill you with softness.
But that's the whole, that saying right there. The whole fact of like the soft water versus hard water thing as well.
Oh yeah,
really, like,
I forgot about that.
That's a really like interesting detail as well. Like that just actually clued into me. I love that murdering Wes with a soft pillow is what.
with a nice soft. I love that you had to specify it was a soft pillow as a considerate killing, as opposed to a hard pillow. Like
we've all slept on a shitty hotel pillow at some point.
You want to know what a really rough pillow was? Our friend Ray, and he gave me
totally expecting to get your mom
and he and my friend. He gave me and my friend Brian one pillow to share while we slept on the floor, and that was a hell of a night. Battling over this pillow.
I've been to Ray's, and I know what you're talking about.
Oh, we love you, Ray.
We love you, Ray. You know, it was actually funny. A couple of times when you said the Ray in the story, I got confused, and I was like, "No, it's part of the story. This is REI, not RAY."
But yeah. So, anyways, that whole factor of like, it actually kind of does point towards Korea again, because Korea does use a hard water system, whereas Japan uses a soft water system. So it kind of again points towards Korea.
As we here use a soft pillow system, as opposed to other places like hotels that use a hard pillow system.
Does Korea also have like as aggressive corporate negotiations like tied into their criminality? I know Japan does.
It's possible, but here's the thing too. That whole military, so like there's a military link to this because ironing is a huge thing with the military, especially the U.S. military. And that handkerchief being ironed, having like evidence of being ironed at one point. If you're just a kid, you're not really going to do that. Like, well, so, but here's the thing. The sand coming from that airbase, and then proof of being in South Korea and making purchases there, and then
all U.S.
Japan, and Japan has a very, like, the U.S. has a very large presence in Japan. So this could be maybe an American citizen who's part of the military
fronting this, essentially.
Yeah, it could be
providing a lot of
or
disguises, as you put.
Or even ex-military, like
Oh, you would just have the irony.
And he'd have some sort of like Korean descent because, 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 Korean males will have that certain haplogroup.
But the sand did come from Edwards Air Base, which, like, who's on the base who was a military member. I don't know. Do Americans hire a lot of civvies?
Well,
I don't know. That's out of my
like they do the same thing that we do, where like you could be born and raised and have Korean descent or Vietnamese descent, and you are an American citizen.
Well, I don't mean as an Asian connection. I just mean in terms of bringing that there and then giving it to somebody who has Asian descent.
That's possible as well. But that's just it. It's a link, but it's also not a huge link. But
in all fairness, if any country would mistake Koreans and Japanese, it's the Americans.
This is true.
This is
I mean, we're Americans, and we screw this up. Canada Town, USA.
Well, American bases in particular have a huge criminal connection, particularly for smuggling weapons. So I wonder if
I'm just waiting for the hashtag right now.
My thought was like a crooked military member brought a cousin or something from another place just to get a job done, and then they all parted ways.
It's possible.
It's a good way to do it.
It's also possible,
especially for inexperienced people.
It's also possible that some American troop or something like that bought all this stuff and then sold it off to some kid.
Or a suitcase got sold. Yeah, there's a bunch of ways this could have played out. It's just there's no hard evidence, but there's so much evidence, and it points to such a specific profile that doesn't fit anybody.
That's what's so unbelievable about this case is that it's so wide open, and yet they have so much evidence. And in our day and age, DNA evidence is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. If you go to court and they say we have DNA evidence of this and it matches him, pretty well you think.
Yeah, but me and you have long hair. Our hair gets everywhere. DNA doesn't mean as much as you think.
Way to break the fourth wall.
I don't have long hair.
I mean, there.
So far,
I once learned though, hair itself isn't actually where we find our DNA.
Nah, you need the root.
It's the root, yeah.
But I'm just saying, DNA can be incidental. It's not. It's indicative of a presence, not motive or criminality.
Yes, but when that DNA evidence is fucking splashed all over the house and all over towels and all over semen and
blood is a big one.
Yes.
I mean, shit is a weird one.
Semen is another one, but that wasn't involved in the story.
No. There was
what you do tonight is
as far as we know, there was no sexual activity in this entire thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The fact you have to say that.
Yeah. I just want to clarify before somebody goes off and be like, they mentioned semen.
And I added there was no semen involved with this crime.
Why are we always talking about something like that at the end of the episodes now?
No problems.
Because I am obsessed with dick.
I mean, points for honesty. I mean, yours, others, all together. Why am I asking? I don't want to know.
Yes.
Yes.
Just you blanket.
I just kickstarted a board game recently, and I can't wait to get it. It's called Dick Knots, and the goal of the game is to create tunnels with dicks in it until they eventually knot together.
We'll try to put that Kickstarter link in the
It's over.
Oh, darn it.
Somebody do some bullshit Freudian analysis of that. I want to see this.
Yeah, we'll just play it whenever I get it. It could be sometime next year, but one
of the early bonus episodes will be us playing this game.
Yeah. Once we have bonus episodes, that's the shit that you get. Oh, look! The tiny penis goes into the foreskin of the big penis.
And
that just sound.
I'm out of words.
That is a card in the game too.
I'm sure there's a term for it. There's a term for everything sexual.
It's called docking. Anyway,
are you about to say that?
I didn't want to know.
Fuck.
There really is a term for everything. Fuck you.
Oh my lord. That was good.
This is the crazy, intelligent shit that you get from our show.
What I love is that this is the longest episode we've ever gone on so far, and holy crud.
Okay, in which
But
case...
no. Like, we don't have to wrap it up just yet. I'm okay with the conversation
rails
so
are
far.
splitting.
But we super... Like, I actually enjoy when we go off the rails a little bit. But
That's fine.
secret confessions here.
I think it's still a good time to end it, because I think that joke just sort of, like, broke everything down at that point.
Yeah, and in all
Leave that
honesty,
with
we were
everybody.
just talking about a family being murdered and all of somewhere.
Now, docking in a board game.
Yeah. Docking. You'll never hear that word normally again.
So you might say that we went right off the docks.
I mean,
or right into it.
genuine evil laugh.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's our show. Ben will give you the cleanup there.
All right,
I
so
need all the wipes.
just the ending housekeeping. If you do want to get a hold of us, we do have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Chaos Jar. Twitter is at BA Chaos Jar, which is Black Atmosphere. Same with Instagram, BA Chaos Jar. Look it up. We post things. I'll be posting pictures.
Wait, am I the Black Atmosphere?
No.
Okay. just
Wow.
making sure.
This has nothing to do with race.
Jesus Christ.
Just checking.
This is that. Wow. And I thought I was the racist one here. And you two have probably made more racist jokes lately than I have.
That's okay. We're the minorities here.
Right. Now get back in your cages.
Listen, I don't see...
He's on a leash. He gets to do research.
Yeah,
I'm
right,
the only one in a cage.
Yeah, research, social media, Patreon.
He gets Wi-Fi. I don't.
So, and just with that mention, we are Chaos Jar on Patreon. I think it still comes up as /Pandora Jar for now. I will try to fix that, but it is Chaos Jar that you'll be searching on Patreon. I'll try to link in the episode show notes. We are found wherever you find us. Please rate, review, leave us some comments. You know, they don't even have to be about the show. I don't care.
Oh man, send us topics you want to do. Send us board games you want us to play. I don't care. I want to do shit for you people. I love you. I don't know who you are, but I love you now.
Well, we did make the Rock Apes Monkey top quest. Do you want board game ideas for your awful, horrible game?
Oh,
wow, that was a little judgmental.
Are you talking about the game that I actually made?
If it involves docking, I feel like there's not an anti-Semitic in the world.
Jesus. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're getting...
Anyway,
Yeah.
you guys have a good night. We'll talk about this afterwards. Okay, bye-bye.